The conference room had that sterile corporate feel. Glass walls, gray carpet, motivational prints that meant nothing. Lawrence Kellerman sat behind a mahogany desk that probably cost more than my first car, shuffling papers with the practiced disinterest of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. My son Derek occupied the chair closest to the desk, legs crossed, checking his phone every 30 seconds. My daughter Amanda sat beside him, hands folded in her lap, wearing that sympathetic expression she'd perfected over the last 2 years. The expression that said, "Dad's declining. We're doing this for him." Kellerman cleared his throat. As executor of Helen Morrison's estate, I'm here to review the final amended will, dated March 14th of this year. March 14th, 5 months before my wife died, 6 weeks after Derek had convinced me to sign the medical proxy. The estate consists primarily of the family home at 847 Riverside Drive, the cabin property in Munson County, and various financial accounts totaling approximately $1.7 million. Kellerman's voice had that lawyer monotone, facts delivered without emotion, like reading a grocery list. Derek shifted forward. Amanda's sympathetic expression deepened. I sat perfectly still. Mrs. Morrison's will specifies that the Riverside property be transferred to Derek James Morrison, with the stipulation that Edward Morrison, that's you, Mr. Morrison, maintain right of residence for a period of no less than 18 months or until such time as alternative arrangements are made. Derek nodded slowly, as if this information required deep consideration. He'd known for months. They both had. The Munson County property transfers to Amanda Christine Morrison Hayes with similar provisions regarding any personal effects stored on the premises. Amanda pressed her lips together. Not quite a smile. That would have been inappropriate. The financial accounts are to be divided equally between Derek and Amanda, with a monthly allowance of $3,000 to be provided to Mr. Morrison for living expenses, health care, and incidentals. $3,000, from an estate worth nearly $2 million. Kellerman continued reading, but I stopped listening to the words. I watched Derek's face instead. The slight relaxation around his eyes, the way his shoulders dropped half an inch. Tension releasing, victory confirmed. Amanda touched her purse strap, her tell. She'd done it since childhood when she was nervous or excited. Right now, she was both. There is one additional clause, Kellerman said, and something in his tone shifted. Not much. Just enough that Derek's eyes flicked up from his phone. Added in a codicil dated March 28th, it states, "In the event that Edward Morrison is determined by medical professionals to lack capacity for independent living, all provisions regarding his residence and allowance remain in effect unless superseded by prior documented agreements executed during a period of verified competency." Derek frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means," Kellerman said, "that any arrangements made while your father was legally competent cannot be invalidated by subsequent medical assessments." "Right," Derek said. "Of course." He didn't understand. Amanda didn't either. I could see it in the way they exchanged glances. Quick, satisfied, already moving past this moment toward whatever came next. But I understood. That clause hadn't been in Helen's original will. I'd added it 3 weeks after she drafted the document, during one of her increasingly rare lucid periods. She'd signed the codicil in front of Kellerman and his paralegal, both of whom witnessed her state of mind, her clarity of purpose. The clause wasn't about protecting me from medical opinions. It was about protecting what I'd done before anyone thought to stop me. Kellerman closed the folder. "Unless there are questions, that concludes the reading. I'll have the final documents prepared for signature within 10 business days." "No questions," Derek said, standing. He extended his hand across the desk. "Thank you, Lawrence. We appreciate you handling this." Lawrence. First name basis. They'd been planning this longer than I'd thought. Amanda stood too, slinging her purse over her shoulder. She crossed to me, bent down, put her hand on mine. "Dad, we're going to take such good care of you. You don't have to worry about anything." Her hand was warm. Her eyes were dry. "I know," I said. We left the building together, emerging into October sunshine that felt too bright, too cheerful for the occasion. The parking lot stretched out in neat rows, cars gleaming like metallic beetles. "We should grab lunch," Derek said. "Talk about next steps." "I have a meeting," Amanda said. "But maybe dinner this week?" "Sure. Dad, you good to drive?" I looked at him. Really looked. He had Helen's eyes, that pale blue that could seem kind or cold depending on the light. Right now, they were kind. Concerned. The same expression he'd worn 2 years ago when he'd first suggested I might need help managing things. "I'm fine," I said. "Okay, well, call if you need anything." They walked to their cars, Derek's BMW, Amanda's Lexus. both financed with money they didn't have yet but counted as already spent. I'd seen the spreadsheets. Not intentionally. Derek had left his laptop open during one of his check-in visits, and I'd glanced at the screen while he was in the bathroom. Line items, asset liquidation timelines, estimated proceeds from the Riverside property if sold in Q1 versus Q4. My house, reduced to a line item. I drove home slowly, taking surface streets instead of the highway. The trees were turning, reds and yellows mixing with the green that hadn't quite surrendered yet. Helen had loved autumn. She'd always said it was honest, no pretending, no false promises, just everything showing its true colors before the fall. The house looked the same as it had that morning. 2 stories, white siding, black shutters. We'd bought it 36 years ago, back when Derek was 3 and Amanda was still a possibility Helen whispered about at night. The mortgage had been terrifying. $2,200 a month on my salary seemed impossible. We'd paid it off in 18 years. Now it was Derek's, legally, officially, with the generous provision that I could keep living there for 18 months, unless alternative arrangements were made. I unlocked the front door and stepped into the foyer. Mail sat in a pile on the hall table. Bills, catalogs, a handwritten envelope from Helen's sister in Vermont. The house smelled like coffee and dust. I'd stopped noticing it years ago, but after sitting in Kellerman's sterile office, the scent hit me fresh. This was my home. The place where I'd carried Helen over the threshold, where Derek had taken his first steps, where Amanda had hidden under the kitchen table during thunderstorms. The place where Helen had died, upstairs in our bedroom, with me holding her hand and Derek checking his phone in the corner. I walked through the living room, past the couch where we'd watched 1,000 movies, past the bookshelf Helen had organized by color instead of author, past the window that overlooked the backyard where I'd taught both kids to ride bikes. The basement door was off the kitchen. I opened it and descended the wooden steps, each one creaking in its familiar pattern. The basement had always been my space. Workbench, tools, storage boxes full of tax returns and old photos and documents Helen had insisted we keep. Just in case, she'd always said. In the far corner, behind a stack of plastic bins labeled holiday decorations, was a filing cabinet I'd bought at an estate sale 20 years ago. Green metal, 4 drawers, a lock that still worked. I pulled the key from my wallet, not hidden, just carried, because the best place to hide something is in plain sight, and opened the bottom drawer. Inside were folders, 10 of them, each labeled with a date. The first one was dated February 2021, 4 years ago, 3 months before Derek had started suggesting I might be slipping. 6 months before Amanda had begun coordinating my doctor's appointments without asking. I pulled out the folder and opened it. Inside was a property deed, not for the Riverside house, for a 2-bedroom condo in Millbrook, 40 miles north. Purchased under my name alone, with funds from an account Helen and I had opened in 1997 and never touched. The account both kids had forgotten existed because it had been opened before online banking, before automatic consolidation, back when people still kept separate savings accounts at different banks for different purposes. The condo purchase had been recorded at the county clerk's office. Notarized, legal, unimpeachable. The deed was dated February 18th, 2021, 4 years ago, when I was still legally competent by every measure that mattered. I closed the folder and returned it to the drawer. Then I pulled out the second folder, dated March 2021. This one contained transfer documents. Moving funds between accounts, small amounts, never more than $9,000 at a time. Under the reporting threshold, nothing that would trigger automated alerts. Withdrawals from accounts Derek and Amanda knew about, deposits into accounts they didn't. All executed while Helen was alive, while I was still just Dad, and not Dad who might be declining. The third folder held contracts with a property management company. The Munson County cabin, Amanda's cabin now, legally, had renters. 3-year lease, automatically renewing, with clauses requiring 6 months' notice for termination. Amanda couldn't sell it, couldn't even access it, not for another 18 months at minimum. The fourth folder contained correspondence with Kellerman, not about Helen's will, but about mine, drafted 2 years before she'd updated hers, specifying distributions, contingencies, requirements, all perfectly legal, all completely outside Derek and Amanda's awareness. I'd been careful, patient. I'd learned patience during my first year at Morrison Steel, back when I was 23 and thought working hard meant working fast. My supervisor, a man named Frank Ricci, who'd survived 3 company restructures, had pulled me aside one day. "Kid," he'd said, "fast makes mistakes, slow makes money." I'd thought he was talking about manufacturing, quality control, defect rates. It took me 15 years to understand he was talking about everything. I returned the folders to the drawer and locked it. Then I climbed back upstairs, made coffee, and sat at the kitchen table with my phone. One text from Derek. Let me know if you need help with anything. One from Amanda. Love you, Dad. I didn't respond to either. Instead, I opened my email and found the message I'd been expecting. Subject line. March 28th. Addendum. Activation confirmed. The message was from Kellerman's office, sent automatically when certain conditions were met. I'd set up the trigger 4 months ago, during one of my visits to his office. A visit Derek and Amanda hadn't known about because I'd scheduled it on a Tuesday afternoon when Derek was at work and Amanda was driving her kids to soccer practice. The email contained one line. Per your instructions, the secondary provisions are now active and will execute upon the next qualifying event. The qualifying event was simple. Any attempt by Derek or Amanda to alter, contest, or accelerate the timeline specified in Helen's will. I didn't expect them to try. Not immediately. They'd be patient. They'd wait the 18 months, let me live in my house on my allowance, all while planning the sale, the distribution, the next steps in lives I was no longer part of except as a line item. But patient doesn't mean smart. And I'd learned something about my children over the past 2 years, watching them coordinate their quiet coup, seeing them exchange glances they thought I didn't notice, hearing phone calls they thought I couldn't understand. They'd inherited Helen's eyes, but they'd inherited my capacity for underestimating other people. I finished my coffee and rinsed the cup. Outside, the sun was setting, turning the backyard into a study of orange and shadow. The maple tree Helen had planted when Amanda was born had grown tall enough to reach the second-story windows. Every autumn, its leaves clogged the gutters. Every autumn, I cleaned them. This autumn, I'd hire someone, because in 18 months, this wouldn't be my house anymore. But that was fine. I had other plans. The morning after the will reading, I woke at 5:30 like I had for 42 years. The habit had outlasted the need. Retirement meant no job site to reach, no crew to supervise, no punch clock requiring my presence. Derek called at 7. Hey, Dad, just checking in. How are you feeling? Fine. Listen, I know yesterday was a lot. Mom's will, all those details. I wanted to make sure you understood everything. I poured my coffee. I understood. Right. Good. So I was thinking, probably makes sense for us to sit down soon. Talk about logistics. You know, making sure bills are paid, mail gets forwarded, that kind of thing. Bills are paid. I know, Dad. I'm just saying. It might be easier if we consolidated things. Set up some automatic payments, maybe link your accounts to mine so I can... No. Silence on the line. Then, no? I said bills are paid. They'll stay paid. Another pause. Okay, sure. I just thought it might be simpler. It's simple now. Right. His voice had that edge it got when he was trying not to sound frustrated. Well, if you change your mind, let me know. I will. Talk soon, Dad. He hung up before I could respond. Probably had a meeting. Derek always had meetings. Even when we'd visited Helen during her final weeks at home, he'd taken calls in the hallway, voice low but urgent, like the hospital room was just another conference space he had to step out of. I drank my coffee and thought about the conversation we'd had 3 months before she died. Late March. She'd been sleeping more by then, but that afternoon she'd been awake, lucid, angry. They think I don't see it, she'd said. See what? What they're doing. How they look at you. Like you're already gone. I'd been sitting beside her bed, holding her hand. It had felt too light, too fragile. Helen had never been fragile. They're worried, I'd said. They're planning. She'd turned her head, met my eyes. You need to protect yourself, Edward. They don't mean to be cruel, but they've already decided you can't manage. And once someone decides that about you, everything you do just confirms what they've already decided. I'm managing fine. I know, but they don't. She'd squeezed my hand. Promise me you'll be smart. Not kind. Smart. I'd promised. That conversation had happened on March 26th. 2 days later, Helen had signed the codicil to her will. The one Kellerman had read yesterday, the one with the clause protecting arrangements made during periods of verified competency. Helen hadn't written that clause. I had. But she'd understood why it mattered, and she'd signed it anyway, because Helen knew our children better than they knew themselves. At 8:30, Amanda texted, Stopping by around noon. Need anything? I texted back, No. She arrived at 11:45, driving her Lexus up the driveway like she was visiting a neighbor. She had 2 shopping bags in her hands. Groceries, I guessed, or things she'd decided I needed without asking first. Hey, Dad. She kissed my cheek, moved past me into the kitchen. Brought some stuff. I noticed your fridge was looking sparse last week. It's fine. I know, but I was at the store anyway. She started unpacking the bags. Milk, bread, eggs, pre-cut vegetables in plastic containers. How are you feeling? Fine. Good. That's good. She arranged items in the fridge with the precision of someone organizing a display. So, I wanted to talk to you about something. I waited. Derek and I were thinking, and this is just a thought, no pressure, but we were thinking it might make sense for you to consider a smaller place. Nothing immediate. Just, starting to look at options. Options? Yeah, like this. This house is a lot to maintain. 2 stories, the yard, all these rooms you're not really using. There are some really nice communities now. Active living, they call it. People your age, activities, meals included. I'm 68. Right, which is why these places are perfect. You're still active, still independent. It's not like... She stopped herself. Not like what? Nothing. I just mean you'd probably really like it. And it would take a lot off your plate. No more worrying about maintenance, repairs, property taxes. She'd rehearsed this. I could hear it in the rhythm of her words, the careful phrasing, probably practiced with Derek, maybe with her husband Blake, who'd always been good at packaging bad news as opportunity. I'm not moving. Amanda's hand stilled on a container of yogurt. Dad, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying we should start thinking about it. I've thought about it. Answer's no. But the house is mine for 18 months? That's what the will says. I know what the will says. I'm not trying to push you out. I'm trying to help you plan. I've planned. She closed the fridge, turned to face me. Dad, are you mad at us? No. It feels like you're mad. I'm not. Then why are you being like this? I looked at her. Really looked. She had Helen's bone structure, the same sharp cheekbones and strong jaw. But where Helen's face had been expressive, joy, anger, sadness flickering across it like weather, Amanda's face was controlled, managed, every expression calibrated for effect. I'm not being like anything, I said. You asked a question, I answered it. You're being short with me. I'm being clear. She folded her arms. Derek said you were weird on the phone this morning. Derek wants to link my accounts to his. That's not... He just wants to help. I don't need help. Mom literally just died, Dad. You're living alone in a huge house. I'm what? She stopped. Her tell, touching her purse strap, was gone. Now she just stood there, arms crossed, jaw tight. Forget it, she said. Say what you were going to say. No, it doesn't matter. You were going to say I'm declining. I wasn't. You were. You and Derek both think I'm declining. That's why he wants my account access. That's why you're talking about active living communities. You've both decided I can't handle my own life, and now everything I do is just evidence. Amanda's face flushed. That's not fair. It's accurate. We're trying to help you. I know, that's the problem. She grabbed her purse. I can't do this right now. Then don't. She walked out. The front door slammed hard enough to rattle the frame. Through the window, I watched her get in her Lexus and reverse too fast, tires chirping against the driveway. I returned to the kitchen and put away the groceries she'd brought. Then I went down to the basement. The filing cabinet was exactly where I'd left it. I pulled out folder 5, dated June 2022. Inside were medical records. My medical records. From the physical examination I'd requested that month, full cognitive assessment, memory tests, problem-solving exercises, detailed evaluation of my mental capacity. The results were clean, no signs of decline, no cognitive impairment, no reason for concern. The doctor who'd conducted the exam was named Patricia Vance. She'd been practicing for 30 years, had no connection to Derek or Amanda, and had filed the results with my primary care physician as part of my standard health records. I'd requested the exam on my own, paid for it out of pocket, never mentioned it to anyone, because I'd known what was coming. The first sign had been small, Derek suggesting I write things down more often because everyone forgets things, Dad. It's just smart to make lists. Then Amanda starting to accompany me to doctor's appointments, saying she wanted to stay in the loop about my health. Then the phone calls between them, the ones they thought I didn't hear or didn't understand or couldn't piece together. He's getting worse. Did you see how long it took him to answer? We need to be proactive about this. They'd built a narrative, a story about a father whose mind was slipping, whose competence was failing, who needed his children to step in and save him from himself. The narrative wasn't true. But truth and belief are different countries, and my children had already moved to belief. So I'd built my own narrative. Medical records showing competency, property purchases made years in advance, legal documents executed during periods no one could question, Financial arrangements invisible to anyone who wasn't looking carefully. I'd done it all slowly, carefully. While Derek and Amanda watched me for signs of decline, I'd been arranging the architecture of their future disappointment. I returned the folder to the cabinet and locked it. Upstairs, my phone was ringing. I didn't recognize the number. Hello? Mr. Morrison? This is Janet Crease from Millbrook Property Management. We spoke last year about the Riverside arrangement. I remember. I wanted to confirm. We're still on schedule for the transition date, correct? Correct. Perfect. I have the keys ready whenever you'd like to pick them up, and the utilities are all set to switch over on the 1st of next month. Good. Any questions? No? Great. Well, we're looking forward to working with you. She hung up. I stood in the kitchen, holding the phone, looking at the house around me. 36 years of life contained in these walls. 36 years of memories Derek and Amanda thought they owned along with the property. They'd sell it. I knew they would. 18 months would pass, alternative arrangements would be made, and they'd list it with some real estate agent who'd call it charming and full of potential and probably suggest knocking down walls to create better flow. They'd split the proceeds, pay off their cars, maybe take vacations. Amanda would probably put her share toward her kids' college funds, because that's what responsible people did. Derek would invest his, because that's what smart people did, and they'd tell themselves they'd done the right thing, that Dad couldn't manage the house anyway, that it was better this way, that Mom would have understood. They'd be right about one thing. Helen would have understood, just not the way they thought. I made lunch, sandwich, chips, water, and ate at the kitchen table. The house was quiet. It had been quiet for months now, ever since Helen's hospital bed had been removed and the hospice equipment returned. Monitors beeping, her breathing, the soft shuffle of nurses checking vitals. Now there was nothing. I finished eating, washed the dishes, and went to the garage. My truck was parked where I'd left it, a 2015 Ford F-150 I'd bought used 5 years ago. Derek had called it impractical when he saw it. Amanda had asked why I needed something so big. Neither of them had noticed when I'd changed the registration to list the Millbrook condo as my primary address. Small changes, invisible updates, the kind of administrative shifts that get lost in the noise of daily life. I'd been making those changes for 3 years, because Helen was right. Once people decide you're declining, everything you do confirms it. So the key is making sure they're watching the wrong things. Let them see an old man who forgets appointments while you're filing property deeds. Let them see a grieving husband who needs help managing bills while you're transferring assets to accounts they don't know exist. Let them see a father who's slipping while you're building the trap they'll never see until it closes. I got in the truck and drove north. Millbrook was 40 miles away, just far enough that Derek and Amanda never went there, just close enough that I could make the drive without anyone questioning where I'd been. The condo complex was called Riverside Estates, ironic name, given that Derek now owned the actual Riverside property. The buildings were 3 stories, red brick, arranged in clusters around a central parking lot. Nothing fancy, nothing that would draw attention. Unit 2B was on the 2nd floor. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The condo was furnished, basics I'd bought at estate sales and secondhand stores. Couch, table, bed, dresser. Enough to be functional, not enough to suggest anyone actually lived there. The utilities were in my name. The rent was paid 6 months in advance through an account Derek and Amanda had never seen. On paper, if anyone bothered to look, I'd owned this place for 4 years. In practice, I'd visited it exactly 7 times. Today was the 8th. I walked through the rooms, checking windows, testing faucets, making sure everything still worked. The place smelled stale, closed-up air, dust settling on surfaces. I opened windows, let fresh air circulate. Then I sat at the kitchen table and spread out the documents I'd brought. Bank statements, property records, tax returns, legal correspondence. My life reduced to paper. Except it wasn't reduced, it was redistributed, reorganized, placed beyond reach of people who thought they had the right to reach. I spent an hour reviewing everything, making sure nothing had changed, confirming that all the pieces were still where I'd placed them. Everything was in order. Because I'd learned from Frank Ricci 30 years ago. Fast makes mistakes, slow makes money, and I'd been very, very slow. Sunday morning, Derek showed up at 7:30. I heard his car in the driveway before I saw him. The BMW's engine had a particular sound, smooth, expensive, the automotive equivalent of his professional persona. I was in the kitchen making coffee when he knocked. I opened the door. "We need to talk," he said. "About what?" "About last night. About whatever's going on with you." "Nothing's going on with me." Dad, you walked out of dinner. You said we haven't earned the right to know your plans. You're acting. He stopped himself, but I heard the word he didn't say. Paranoid, I offered. Defensive. Same thing, in your mind. He ran a hand through his hair. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked past me into the kitchen, looked around like he was cataloging evidence. The coffee maker. The clean counters. The empty sink. Coffee? I asked. No. He turned to face me. Dad, I'm worried about you. I know. No, I mean really worried. Last night wasn't normal. Define normal. Don't do that. Don't deflect. I'm trying to have a real conversation. I poured coffee, leaned against the counter. Go ahead. Derek pulled out a chair and sat. Amanda's upset. She thinks we pushed too hard, too fast, but I think something else is going on. Something you're not telling us. Like what? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I sipped my coffee. It was too hot. Burned my tongue. There's nothing to tell. Then why won't you let us help you? Because I don't need help. Everyone needs help, Dad. That's not weakness. That's being human. I agree. When I need help, I'll ask for it. Will you? Because from where I'm standing, you're isolating yourself, refusing to engage with us, acting like we're the enemy. I don't think you're the enemy. Then what do you think we are? I looked at him. Really looked. Derek at 38 looked older than I'd been at 40. Stress lines around his eyes, gray starting at his temples. The accumulated weight of a life spent managing things, money, people, outcomes. I think you're my son, I said. Then trust me. I do. No, you don't. If you trusted me, you'd tell me what you're planning. Some plans work better when they're private. His jaw tightened. That sounds like something someone with early-stage dementia would say. There it was, the word they'd been dancing around for months. Dementia, I repeated. I'm not saying you have it. I'm saying that refusing help, being secretive, getting defensive, those are all warning signs. Or signs that I value my privacy and don't appreciate my children treating me like a problem to be solved. We're not. You are. You've been treating me like a problem since before your mother died. Coordinating appointments I didn't ask you to coordinate. Suggesting lists I didn't need. Building a case that I'm declining so when you finally take control, you'll feel justified. Derek stood. That's not what we're doing. Then what are you doing? Trying to help our father navigate a difficult period in his life? By taking control of my finances? By suggesting managed living communities? By showing up unannounced to check whether I'm cleaning my kitchen? I'm here because I'm worried. You're here because you're scared I'll embarrass you. His face went white. That's not true. Isn't it? Scared I'll forget something important? Scared I'll make a mistake that reflects badly on the family? Scared that Dad, who worked 40 years and raised 2 kids and managed a household, might not be competent enough to handle his own life now that Mom's gone? Dad. I'm done talking, Derek. We're not finished. Yes, we are. You can leave now. He stared at me. For a moment, I thought he might argue. Then he grabbed his keys from the counter. Fine, but we're not done with this conversation. We are. He walked to the door, stopped. Amanda was right. You're getting worse. Amanda's scared too. Of what? Of realizing she's wrong about me. He left without responding. The door closed hard enough to rattle the frame. I watched through the window as he got in his BMW and reversed out of the driveway, tires squealing slightly on the turn. Then I went back to my coffee. The rest of Sunday passed quietly. I spent the afternoon in the garage, sorting through boxes Helen had been meaning to organize for years. Old tax documents, kids' school papers, photos from vacations we'd taken when Derek and Amanda were young. One photo caught my eye. Derek at 8, standing in front of the Grand Canyon. He was smiling, arms spread wide, trying to encompass the scope of the view. Behind him, the canyon stretched into hazy distance. He'd been so excited that trip. Every overlook, every vista, he'd run ahead, shouting for us to hurry up, to see what he'd found. Helen had laughed, said he had explorer's energy. I'd thought it was just kid energy. The belief that the world was full of things to discover and all of them were waiting just for him. I set the photo aside and kept sorting. Tila. Monday morning, Amanda texted, "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Tuesday, Derek sent an email. Subject line, family meeting. The message read, Dad, we need to discuss some concerns. Can you come to my office Friday at 2 p.m.? Blake and Amanda will be there. This is important. I deleted the email. Wednesday, Janet Crease called. Mr. Morrison, just confirming. We're all set for December 1st. I've updated the utilities, notified the post office, and arranged for the property manager to do a final walkthrough the day before. Do you need help with the move itself? No? Okay. Well, if you change your mind, we have recommendations for local movers. Also, I wanted to mention the tenants at the Munson property contacted us. Apparently someone's been by the cabin asking questions. My hand tightened on the phone. What kind of questions? About the lease terms, when it expires, whether there's any flexibility on early termination. Who was asking? They didn't get a name, said it was a woman, mid-30s, drove a Lexus. Amanda. What did they tell her? Nothing. The lease agreement is confidential. They told her to contact property management, but she left before they could get her information. Good. Should I be concerned? No, just don't provide any information to anyone except me. Understood. She hung up. I sat in the kitchen, processing the information. Amanda had gone to the cabin, asking about the lease, trying to find out whether she could access the property sooner than expected, which meant they were escalating. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. Found the message from Kellerman's office, the one with the subject line, March 28th. Addendum. Activation confirmed. I scrolled to the bottom, where the fine print lived. The part neither Derek nor Amanda had read carefully because legal documents were long and boring and full of clauses that seemed irrelevant. One clause read, in the event that any beneficiary attempts to modify, contest, or circumvent the terms of this agreement prior to the specified timeline, all provisions revert to the alternate distribution schedule as outlined in Section 7, Paragraph 3. Section 7, Paragraph 3 was on page 9. It specified that if Derek or Amanda tried to accelerate their control, everything, the house, the accounts, the Munson property, reverted to a trust controlled by me, with distributions determined by my discretion, not their discretion, mine. Helen had read that clause 3 times before signing. Are you sure about this? She'd asked. Yes. It's harsh. It's necessary. She'd signed it anyway, because Helen understood the same thing I did. Love and trust aren't the same. You can love someone completely and still not trust them with power. I forwarded Kellerman's email to myself with a note. Confirm status. Then I drove to Kellerman's office. The law firm occupied the 3rd floor of a professional building downtown. Glass doors, beige carpet, abstract art on the walls. The receptionist recognized me. Mr. Morrison, do you have an appointment? No, but I need 5 minutes with Lawrence. Let me check his schedule. She picked up the phone, murmured into it, nodded. He can see you now. Kellerman's office was all dark wood and leather chairs. He stood when I entered, shook my hand. Edward, what can I do for you? I need confirmation on the March 28th addendum. He gestured to a chair. We both sat. What kind of confirmation? If Derek or Amanda attempt to modify the lease terms at Munson, does that trigger Section 7, Paragraph 3? Kellerman pulled a file from his desk drawer, flipped through pages. Let me see. Yes. Any attempt to modify, contest, or circumvent the lease terms would constitute an attempt to accelerate control. That would trigger the reversion clause. And they'd have no legal recourse? Not unless they could prove the original agreement was signed under duress or diminished capacity. Given the medical documentation you provided at the time of signing, that would be extremely difficult. Good. Kellerman set down the file. Edward, can I ask what's happening? They're pushing. How hard? Hard enough. He was quiet for a moment. You know, when Helen first came to me about this arrangement, I thought it was overly cautious, maybe even paranoid. And now? Now I think you were both very smart. I stood. Thank you, Lawrence. Edward, one more thing. If the reversion clause triggers, it becomes a matter of public record. Derek and Amanda will find out. I know. They won't take it well. I know that too. I left his office and drove home. The afternoon sun was low, turning the house golden. I parked in the garage and sat for a moment, just breathing. Inside, my phone was ringing. I checked the screen. Derek, I answered. Dad, we need to talk, now. About what? About whatever you're doing. Amanda went to the cabin. The tenants wouldn't talk to her, and when she called the property management company, they said all information was confidential. It is. Why? What did you do? I protected my property. It's not your property. It's Amanda's. Mom left it to her. With conditions. What conditions? That's between me and the property manager. Dad, this is insane. You're acting like we're trying to rob you. Aren't you? Silence. Then, what the hell does that mean? It means I know what you're trying to do, both of you, and I'm not letting it happen. We're not trying to do anything except help you. By taking control of assets that aren't yours yet, by planning for the future. My future, not yours. Dad, listen to yourself. You're being paranoid and hostile and careful. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking very clearly, more clearly than you realize. Then explain it to me. Help me understand. No. Why not? Because you'll find out soon enough. I hung up. My hands were shaking again, but not from relief this time, from satisfaction. Because the trap was closing, slowly, inevitably. And Derek and Amanda were walking right into it. Friday at 1:45, I drove to Derek's office, not because I wanted to attend his family meeting, because I wanted them to see me arrive. The building was downtown, 12 stories of glass and steel. Derek's firm occupied the 7th floor, some kind of consulting business I'd never fully understood. He'd explained it once at a Christmas dinner, using words like strategic alignment and operational optimization. Helen had nodded politely. I'd focused on my plate. The elevator opened onto a lobby with a receptionist who smiled like it was part of her job description. Good afternoon. Do you have an appointment? Derek Morrison. I'm his father. Of course. Let me let him know you're here. She picked up the phone. I didn't wait. I walked past her desk, down a hallway lined with glass-walled offices and conference rooms. Derek's name was on a placard outside the last office on the left. The door was open. Inside, Derek sat at a desk with 2 monitors, typing. Amanda occupied one of the visitor chairs. Blake sat in the other. They all looked up when I appeared. Dad, Derek said, surprise flickering across his face. I didn't think you were coming. You said it was important. It is. He stood, gestured to a chair. Please sit. I stayed standing. What did you want to talk about? Derek exchanged a glance with Amanda. She nodded slightly. We're concerned, Derek began. About your behavior, about some decisions you've made recently. What decisions? The cabin, for one thing. Amanda tried to contact the property manager and got stonewalled. The lease is confidential. Why? Because it's my business. It's Amanda's property. Not yet. Amanda leaned forward. Dad, what's going on? Why are you hiding things from us? I'm not hiding anything. I'm maintaining appropriate boundaries. Blake cleared his throat. Edward, we're all family here. There shouldn't be any boundaries. I looked at him. You're not family. You're my daughter's husband. Blake's face went red. Amanda's eyes widened. Dad! It's true. Blake's part of the family because Amanda chose him, but he doesn't get to tell me what boundaries are appropriate. Derek stood. Dad, that's inappropriate. So is ambushing me in your office. This isn't an ambush. It's a conversation. Conversations don't require 3-on-1 coordination. We're coordinating because we're worried, because your behavior is concerning. I crossed my arms. List my concerning behaviors. Derek pulled out a legal pad. Actual notes. He'd been preparing. You've become withdrawn. You don't return calls. You walked out of dinner. You're defensive when we try to help. You've made secretive arrangements we don't understand. You're refusing to discuss your plans. Those aren't concerning behaviors. Those are choices. Choices that suggest you're not thinking clearly. Or choices that suggest I'm thinking very clearly and don't appreciate being managed like a problem. Amanda stood. Dad, we're not managing you. We're trying to help you navigate a difficult time. Mom just died. You're alone. It's natural for us to be concerned. It's also natural for me to want privacy. Privacy is different from secrecy. Not to you. To you, privacy looks like secrecy because you think you have a right to know everything about my life. Derek set down his pad. We do have a right. We're your children. We're responsible for you. I'm responsible for me. For how long? The question hung in the air. What does that mean? I asked. It means we don't know how long you'll be capable of managing your own affairs, and we need to plan for when that changes. It hasn't changed. Not yet. I stepped forward. Say what you mean, Derek. He met my eyes. I think you're showing signs of cognitive decline. I think your judgment is impaired. And I think we need to start discussing guardianship. Guardianship. The word landed like a stone. Amanda's face went pale. Derek, we didn't agree to. He needs to hear it. We've been dancing around this for months. Someone needs to say it plainly. I looked at all 3 of them. Amanda, uncomfortable but not disagreeing. Blake, trying to look neutral. Derek, jaw set, certain he was right. You want guardianship, I said slowly. If necessary. Based on what? Medical evidence? Cognitive tests? Professional assessment? Based on your behavior. My behavior, which consists of maintaining privacy and making decisions you don't agree with. Decisions that don't make sense? To you. To anyone objective. I smiled. You want objectivity? Fine. Let's get objective. I pulled out my phone, opened my email, found the file I'd been carrying for 2 years, the one I'd hoped I'd never need but had prepared anyway. This, I said, turning the screen toward Derek, is a medical evaluation conducted in June 2022. Full cognitive assessment. Memory tests, problem-solving evaluation, conducted by Dr. Patricia Vance, who has no connection to any of us and no reason to falsify results. Derek took my phone, scrolled through the document. His expression didn't change, but his grip tightened. The evaluation shows no cognitive impairment, no signs of decline, no reason for concern. It was filed with my primary care physician as part of my standard health records. This is from 2 years ago. It's still valid. If you want a recent evaluation, I'll get one. Independent doctor, objective tests, and when those tests show the same thing, we'll discuss guardianship again. Amanda reached for the phone. Derek handed it to her. She read, her face shifting from discomfort to confusion. "Why didn't you tell us about this?" she asked. "Because you didn't ask. You just assumed. We were concerned. You were planning. There's a difference." Derek sat down heavily. "Dad, I don't understand. If you have documentation proving you're competent, why all the secrecy? Why not just show us this months ago?" "Because then you would have known I saw you coming." Silence. Blake looked confused. Amanda's eyes widened. Derek's jaw tightened. "Saw us coming," Derek repeated. "That's right. I've known for 2 years what you were planning. The medical proxy, the concern about my competency, the slow accumulation of control. I saw it all, and I documented my capacity to see it. You think we're plotting against you. I think you're doing what you believe is right. I just don't agree with your definition of right." Amanda set the phone down. "Dad, I don't know what this is." "It's preparation." "For what?" "For exactly this moment." Derek stood. "What moment?" "The moment when you try to take control and discover you can't." They stared at me. Outside, through the glass walls, people walked past carrying coffee cups and file folders, oblivious to the conversation imploding in Derek's office. "What are you talking about?" Derek asked. The arrangements I've made. The plans you've been so curious about. They're all legal, all documented, all executed while I was verifiably competent." "What arrangements?" "The kind that protect me from people who think they know what's best for me." Amanda's voice was small. "You really think we're trying to hurt you?" "I think you're trying to help me. I think you genuinely believe I need saving. I just disagree, and I've made sure my disagreement is legally binding." Derek's face had gone red. "This is insane. This is careful. It's paranoid. It's smart." Blake stood. "Maybe we should all take a breath. This is getting heated." "Sit down, Blake," I said. "This doesn't concern you. I'm Amanda's husband, which makes you adjacent to this conversation, not part of it." Amanda rounded on me. "Don't talk to him like that." "Then don't bring him to a conversation about my life." Derek moved between us. "Okay, everyone calm down." "I'm perfectly calm," I said. "You just insulted Blake." "I stated a fact. Blake isn't my child. He doesn't get a vote in my life. He's family. He's Amanda's family. That's different." Amanda's eyes filled with tears. "Why are you being like this?" "Like what?" "Cruel." "I'm being clear. You wanted this conversation. You wanted to discuss guardianship and competency and my concerning behavior. Fine. We're discussing it. And what you're learning is that I'm not the confused old man you thought I was." Derek grabbed his legal pad, gripped it hard enough to crumple the edges. "What do you want from us, Dad?" "Nothing." "That's not true. You want something. Otherwise, you wouldn't have come here." I looked at all three of them. "I came here so you'd understand something." "What?" "That I'm done being managed, done being assessed, done being treated like a problem that needs solving. My life is mine. My decisions are mine. And if you can't accept that, then we have nothing else to discuss." I turned to leave. Derek's voice stopped me. "The house." I turned back. "Mom's will says you have 18 months, but it also says alternative arrangements can be made. What does that mean?" I smiled. "You'll find out." "When?" "December 1st. Amanda frowned. "That's 5 weeks from now." "I know." "What happens December 1st?" "Alternative arrangements." Derek stepped forward. Dad, you need to explain this. No, I don't. Yes, you do. If you're planning something that affects Mom's will, we have a right to know. You have a right to nothing until I choose to give it to you. His face went white. What did you do? I protected myself. From what? From you. I left before any of them could respond. Walked down the hallway, past the smiling receptionist, into the elevator. The doors closed on Derek's office, on Amanda's tearful face, on Blake's confused expression. The elevator descended. I watched the numbers change, counting down from 7 to 1. When I reached the lobby, my phone was already ringing. Derek, I didn't answer. I walked outside into cold November air that smelled like car exhaust and coming rain. The parking garage was 2 blocks away. I walked slowly, hands in my pockets, breathing steady. Behind me, I heard running footsteps. Dad, wait. Amanda. I kept walking. She caught up, grabbed my arm. Please, just stop for a second. I stopped, turned. She was breathing hard, face flushed from running. What did you do? She asked. I already told you. No, you told us you protected yourself. That's not an answer. That's a threat. It's a fact. Dad, I don't understand what's happening. I don't understand why you're so angry with us. I'm not angry. Then what are you? I looked at her. My daughter, 35 years old, Helen's sharp cheekbones, my stubborn jaw, a woman who believed she was doing the right thing, who couldn't see how her kindness had become control. Disappointed, I said. Her face crumpled. In us? In what you think of me. We think you're our father. You think I'm a problem. That's not... It is. You and Derek have spent 2 years building a case that I'm declining, collecting evidence, coordinating strategy, all so when you finally took control, you could tell yourselves it was necessary. Because we love you? Because it was convenient? She stepped back like I'd slapped her. That's not fair. It's true. You don't know what we've been through, watching Mom die, worrying about you, trying to figure out how to help. I didn't ask for help. You didn't have to. We're your children. And I'm your father, which means I raised you, provided for you, made sure you had everything you needed. I did my job. Now let me live my life. Not if you're making decisions that hurt you. Who decides what hurts me? She didn't answer. That's the problem, I said. You've decided you know what's best for me. You've decided my choices are wrong. You've decided I need saving, and nothing I say will change your mind because you've already made up your mind. That's not true. Then prove it. Stop trying to control me. Stop treating me like I'm incompetent. Stop building your case. We're not building a case. Derek just suggested guardianship. He's scared. He's ambitious. Her eyes widened. You think Derek wants to control you for money? I think Derek wants to control me because he believes he's smarter than I am. The money is just a bonus. That's horrible. It's human. She wiped her eyes. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just let me go. I turned and walked away. This time she didn't follow. I reached the parking garage, found my truck, got in. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. December 1st arrived cold and gray. I woke at 5, loaded the last boxes into my truck, and drove north toward Millbrook. The highway was empty at that hour. Just me and the semis hauling freight, headlights cutting through the pre-dawn dark. The radio played classic rock at low volume. I'd left it on the same station for 20 years. Helen used to complain it was all the same songs, but I liked the familiarity, knowing what was coming next. The Millbrook exit appeared at 6:15. I took it, followed the access road past a gas station and a diner that advertised breakfast specials on a hand-painted sign. The condo complex materialized out of the gray morning. Red brick, quiet parking lots, bare trees marking the perimeter. I parked in front of Building 2, carried the first box upstairs. Janet Crease had left the key under the mat, along with a note. Welcome home. All utilities active. If you need anything, call. Inside, the condo smelled like fresh paint and new carpet. The furniture I'd bought looked different now that I was actually living here instead of just visiting. More real, more permanent. I spent 2 hours unloading boxes, clothes, books, documents, the essentials of a life reduced to what fit in a truck bed. When I finished, I stood in the middle of the living room, surrounded by cardboard and belongings, and felt nothing. No relief, no sadness, just the neutral acceptance of a task completed. At 9, my phone rang. Derek. I answered. Dad, where are you? Millbrook. Where's that? 40 miles north. Silence. Then, why are you in Millbrook? I live here now? What? I moved. December 1st, like I said. You. What? You moved? To where? A condo. 2-bedroom, quiet complex, reasonable rent. You rented a place? No, I bought it. 4 years ago. More silence. Longer this time. When Derek spoke again, his voice had changed. Tighter, controlled. You bought a condo 4 years ago. That's right. And you're just now telling us? You didn't ask. Dad, this is insane. You can't just move without telling anyone. I'm telling you now. After the fact? After the fact was always the plan. I heard him take a breath. What about the house? What about it? You're just leaving? The will says I have residence rights for 18 months or until alternative arrangements are made. I've made alternative arrangements. You can't do that. I already did. Dad, listen to me. No, you listen. The house is yours now. Legally, completely. You can sell it, rent it, knock it down, and build something else. I don't care. My connection to that property ended this morning. But where are you living? I told you, Millbrook. The address is 847 Riverside Estates, Unit 2B. That's not... He stopped. Wait, 847 Riverside? Like the house address? Different Riverside, but yes. You did that on purpose. Maybe. Derek's voice rose. This is insane. You bought a condo 4 years ago, kept it secret, and now you're just leaving? That's correct. What about your things, your furniture, Mom's belongings? What I wanted, I took. The rest stays with the house. You can't just abandon a house full of possessions. They're your possessions now. Dispose of them however you want. Dad, you need to think about this. I've been thinking about this for 4 years. I'm done thinking. I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. I turned it off. Outside, the morning had brightened slightly. Not sunny, but less gray. I walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot, the other buildings, the bare trees swaying in the wind. This was my home now, not the place where I'd raised my children or buried my wife, just a functional space in a quiet complex where no one knew my history and no one expected anything from me. It felt right. At noon, I drove to a grocery store, bought supplies, returned to the condo. While I was unpacking food, someone knocked. I opened the door. Amanda stood in the hallway, face blotchy from crying. Dad, how did you find me? Derek called property records. Your address is public information. Of course it is. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She entered, looking around at the sparse furniture, the still-packed boxes, the generic walls. This is where you've been planning to move? Yes. It's so... empty. It's enough. She turned to face me. Dad, what are you doing? Living my life. By running away? By choosing where I live. You didn't choose. You fled. Those aren't the same thing. She sank onto the couch, put her face in her hands. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Why would you leave without telling us? I told you, December 1st. That's not telling us. That's announcing after you've already decided. Correct. She looked up. Do you hate us? No. Then why does it feel like you do? I sat in the armchair across from her. Amanda, I don't hate you. I don't even dislike you. But I also don't trust you to let me make my own decisions. And this move proves I was right not to. What does that mean? It means you and Derek spent 2 years trying to control my life, suggesting I couldn't manage alone, coordinating behind my back, building your case for why I needed supervision, and the second I make a choice outside your control, you show up demanding explanations. Because we're worried. Because you're losing control. Her face flushed. That's not fair. It's accurate. We were trying to help. You were trying to manage. There's a difference. She stood, paced to the window. What about the house? What about Mom's things? What about all the years we spent there? You can keep whatever you want. Sell the rest. Just like that? Just like that. She turned. Do you know how much work that is? Going through a lifetime of belongings? Making decisions about what stays and what goes? I do. I made those decisions last month. In 1 month? I had 4 years to prepare. She stared at me. You've been planning this since before Mom died. Since 2 months after Derek suggested I might be slipping. That long ago? I told you. I saw you coming. She sat again, heavily, like her legs had given out. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. But I do, because I need you to understand. We weren't trying to hurt you. We were trying to protect you. From what? From yourself. From making mistakes. From having autonomy? She stopped. That's not what I was going to say. But it's what you meant. Silence settled between us. Outside, a car door slammed. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Life continuing, indifferent to our conversation. What happens now? Amanda asked finally. You go back to your life. I continue mine. That's it? That's it. We just stop being a family? We stop being a family that pretends I need supervision. But we do worry about you. I know. You can keep worrying. Just do it from a distance. She stood. Derek's going to be furious. Derek's already furious. This is going to make it worse. That's his problem, not mine. She walked to the door, stopped. The cabin. What about it? The lease. Why wouldn't the property manager talk to me? Because the lease is confidential. But I'm the owner. Not until certain conditions are met. Her eyes narrowed. What conditions? That's between me and the property manager. Dad, you can't lock me out of my own property. I haven't locked you out. The lease agreement has terms. Follow the terms. What are the terms? Read the lease. I don't have the lease. Request it from the property manager. She won't give it to me. Then I guess you'll have to wait. Amanda's face went red. This is ridiculous. This is legal. I'll get a lawyer. Good luck. She yanked the door open. You know what? Derek was right. You're being paranoid and vindictive and careful. And I'm done trying to help someone who doesn't want help. She left. The door slammed. I heard her footsteps receding down the hallway, rapid and angry. I returned to unpacking groceries. That evening, as I was assembling a bookshelf, Derek called. I'd turned my phone back on at 4, knowing he'd eventually try. I answered. You need to fix this, he said without preamble. Fix what? The cabin situation. Amanda can't access her own property because of some lease you arranged. The lease was arranged by the previous owner. Who was you and Mom? Who had legal right to arrange lease terms? Terms that are now preventing Amanda from using the property. Terms that are protecting the current tenant's rights. The tenants she didn't know existed. Because she didn't ask. Derek's voice rose. Dad, stop playing games. This is Amanda's property. She has a right to access it. She has a right to ownership. Access is determined by the lease agreement, which you set up, which was legally executed while both your mother and I were alive and competent. It's still manipulative. It's protective. Of who? Of the property, of the tenants, of my right to make decisions without your interference. This isn't about decisions. This is about control. You're punishing us. I'm protecting myself. By sabotaging Amanda's inheritance? By ensuring she receives it on appropriate terms. Appropriate according to who? According to me and your mother. Silence. Then, Mom wouldn't have wanted this. Mom signed every document willingly. Because she trusted you. And I honored that trust by doing exactly what we discussed. Which was what? Hurting your own children? Protecting them from making mistakes. What mistakes? The mistake of thinking ownership means you can ignore established agreements. The mistake of thinking inheritance means immediate control. The mistake of thinking your parents were too old or too confused to understand what you were planning. More silence. Longer this time. When Derek spoke again, his voice was different, quieter, colder. You've been planning this all along. Yes. Even before Mom got sick. Especially before Mom got sick. Why? Because I knew what would happen when she died. I knew you'd see me as a problem. I knew you'd try to help me by taking control, and I knew I needed to prevent that. By lying to us? By maintaining appropriate boundaries. That's not boundaries, that's deception. Call it whatever helps you sleep. Dad, you can't do this. I already did. Then I'll undo it. Good luck. I mean it. I'll get lawyers. I'll contest the lease. You'll trigger the reversion clause. He stopped. What? The reversion clause. In your mother's will. Section 7, paragraph 3. If you attempt to modify, contest, or circumvent any of the arrangements made during our period of verified competency, everything reverts to a trust controlled by me. Silence. Deep, shocked silence. You're bluffing, Derek said finally. Call Kellerman. Ask him. I will. Good. He'll explain it better than I can. This is insane. This is careful. This is war. No, this is consequence. You wanted to treat me like I couldn't manage my own life. Now you get to experience what happens when someone actually can't manage. Only that someone is you, not me. Derek's breath came faster. I'm not letting this go. You don't have a choice. Yes, I do. I'll fight this. Every step, Every document, every clause. And you'll lose. We'll see. He hung up. I set down my phone and returned to the bookshelf. The pieces fit together with satisfying clicks, each joint secure, each shelf level. Outside, darkness had fallen completely. The parking lot lights flickered on, casting yellow pools across the asphalt. Inside my condo, surrounded by boxes and new furniture and the clean slate of a life reorganized, I felt something close to peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction. Just the quiet certainty that comes from a plan executed correctly.